So this is all going to depend on where your fandom lies or which companies you follow. But as Kenny Omega did say on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, it has been 7 years somehow since Kenny Omega and Okada last locked up. So now it's time to revisit the past. It's Back to the Future 4. The reason I wanted to talk about it today is because some people won't even know about it. That will sound surprising to those who are absolutely obsessed with those 4 matches, but it's only fair to say that since 2017, we've probably got not a lot more people watching pro wrestling, but new people are absolutely going to be watching pro wrestling, which makes all the sense in the world. And I have seen some negative Nancy's, and as always, I always point this out. People say, Simon, why do you say this every single time? Because I don't know who new is watching, right? Hopefully new people are finding the videos. So I always like to make it clear that whatever you think about Okada versus Omega or WW or AEW, Impact, TNA, Ring of Honor is totally fine, right? As long as you don't go too crazy with it and get insulting, as some people do. But one of the reasons we are where we are today is because of the Omega-Okada 4 matches, which blew everybody's brain. Like, they really did. If you went back to that point where New Japan was kind of, I suppose, getting at least a Western boom, it was doing really well in Japan, but a bunch of Westerners were going, oh my gosh, what's going on over here? Then it kind of died down after the pandemic, but it was linked by these 2 matches. And a huge reason for that was because as wrestling got way more accessible from 2010, wherever the flub it was, all of a sudden you started getting these new styles and these new ways to approach pro wrestling, especially if you were just a WWE guy. And what I think we even forget now, even though it's only been, 6-7 years, WWE had a monopoly over this corner of the world's wrestling. WCW was dead. TNA would kind of go up and down. And who knows more about ups and downs than me? You can check out my mammoth review of that 4-hour AEW show over on What Culture Wrestling. And please do subscribe to me as well. I'd massively appreciate it. But Omega and Okada was special. And it was one of the first matches I was like, I used to kind of follow New Japan for matches that people would tell me to watch. But then it got to the point where I was like, if those 2 get announced, I'm going to go and watch it. And you just have the crazy draw. And you have that one match, I think it's in the G1, which is shorter than the rest, but still 25 minutes, whatever the flub. But every single time they treated it like movies, I suppose, which makes the stupidest thing I've ever said. And you should now get mad and go and comment, because that's good for the algorithm. But every single one sort of tied into the last, but every single one sort of had its own theme too. And then of course we forget about these things. It's been 7 years. Since then, AEW is born. A huge reason was because of Okada Omega matches and people wanting or having a thirst for a different style of wrestling. And we've just gone through everything. Like WWE sucked in 2019, then it got really, really good again. Now everything's kind of balanced out a little bit, which maybe is for the best, maybe for the worst, depending on what you're looking for. But there's huge expectation on this. And after the angle that AEW did do, which I thought was really good, always up for a bit of over-the-top blood coming out of somebody's mouth and tum-tum, it could go 2 ways, right? I think they're going to go in there. I'm not sure it can ever be as good as what it was back then, just because the law of expectations is always going to make that suffer. Like, if I make the best video ever in 2017, then I think, oh man, I'm going to do it again. You are going to expect so much more. I'm going to have to pull something pretty damn amazing out of my tuchus to be able to pull that off. But sometimes it can just be about recapturing that feeling, even if it's only for a moment. I think Kenny Omega and Okada know that, hence why they did do sort of that hairy angle on Dynamite. But the other way it can go is the addition of Okada to the Don Callis family. Because the last thing I want in this match is shenanigans and distractions and interference and confusion. I just want those 2 to fight, and I want a winner and I want a loser. And I don't mind who wins, and I don't mind who loses, as long as it makes sense and there's a story. And of course, the winner now gets the unified title. We have to talk about that as well. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But I think sometimes you do have to give things the benefit of the doubt. And some people are saying, I can't believe Tony Khan is doing this. It's absolutely crazy. That's like going to try and get, so I can't think of anybody now, but somebody that may have been retired for 10 years, but was the best of the best. Then they went away into the wilderness for a while, and somebody actually was able to entice them back onto the stage. And people, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Of course we should do that. Even if it does turn out to be a complete bust, and we go, man, I'm massively disappointed. You want to see it, and you want to see what they're going to be able to do. And I just think they're such generational talents, especially given what they were able to pull off, that wouldn't even be an option for them. They will come up with something, and their crazy creative brains will pull something out where they go, well, we can do this, and we can approach it this way. And even though it does tie back into what we've done, it will feel completely fresh and completely new. And let's not forget, it's the first time we're getting it on American soil. I'm sure there's plenty of matches that I can't even think about right now that I would go absolutely nuts if I thought, well, I can just go down the road or the equivalent to watch it. It would get me super excited. So you can be completely despondent about this if you want. Despondent, that's not what I meant. But you know what I mean? You can throw it to one side if you think it means nothing to you. But I suppose my soapbox rant for today is that I don't think you can just dismiss it entirely. I think that's kind of ignoring what it was. I think that's ignoring historical context. And even if you are a WWE guy or girl and you just want to pretend this doesn't exist, that's fine, but it certainly has merit and it certainly has worth. And if you're one of the, 1,500 people that went out and bought a ticket for All In because they announced Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, I totally get it. I totally understand. And I think you're going to get one of those moments when you've got Okada looking at Kenny and Kenny looking at Okada, and where is it? Some stadium in Texas, I can't remember the name now. That is just going to be on fire, and people are going to be so pumped, and I'm going to be so pumped, which is why I just wanted to talk about it today, because it did expand my fandom, and it did allow me to sort of start seeing wrestling in a different way. That's a really hard thing to do, because of course we all get into our routines, but sure, the Don Callis thing is absolutely an asterisk, and I hope that AEW doesn't get pulled too much in that direction, because even if we did do that to set up another match, well, then you are kind of mucking around with the law of diminishing returns. I would rather we just took everything we had, 100%, all the love and the glory and everything else, and threw it into this. I would like it, I don't mean this because I don't want anyone to be in this position, but I would love it to have the potential to be like, well, the first one that always comes to mind, we'll go with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. At WrestleMania 25, I always get those two confused because my brain is stupid. When everyone was like, we should have put that on the main event. That was stupid. Why didn't we do it? Because I don't want that. I don't want anything else to suffer on the card. But the Unified title is very interesting. Let's just talk about the names. Yes, we have Blake Monroe, who's Mariah May on NXT, and we have the Unified title. I wouldn't say that I'm overly enthused about either name, but I also know in 6 months' time, we're not even going to be thinking about it because once again, our brains just get used to this stuff. And it really is about how they're presented, right? If Mariah May is presented as a super duper whooper star, she'll be that way. And if this championship is presented at the world level, which apparently is the plan from AEW, that is how people will receive it. I do think that's quite hard because even in Raw and SmackDown terms, sometimes one belt is always higher than the other. It's very rare that you're able to sort of get them on the same plane, but I like the idea of it. If you're going to combine these two titles together, it seems kind of silly to keep them on the same space. Let's try and blow it up. Let's try and blow all these belts up. People get so mad that AEW may be introducing women's tag team titles. Well, let's see what happens. If it sucks, all right, then we can go, we shouldn't have done that. That was dumb. Maybe it'll be really good and maybe it'll open up the door for more opportunities. I mean, the Megan Bain Penelope Ford tag team's been going quite well now. I feel like it's serving for where they are in their particular careers. So I'm excited about this unified belt. There's too many titles in pro wrestling. Nobody's going to argue that. Like, if we were going to be massive nerds, and we'll probably do it one day, and we counted every belt in all the major promotions, after a while you'd be like, man, it's a bit like everybody just has some gold. But when you do make something new, and it does have some kind of historical context, which this does, it does open the opportunity to try and jump on that, especially, let's say Kenny Omega wins, and you push Kenny Omega on this crazy, crazy run, and he has amazing matches with people, that belt will then mean more to you. And it will be the same with Okada. I suppose it just depends on what the fallout is going to be. And sure, there's been times when AEW has really struck gold and then not nailed what comes next. But I'm always happy to give people the benefit of the doubt and hopefully that we're learning and trying new things, because that's what wrestling should be. Again, we do have 52 weeks of programming in a year. There is no off-season, so if you're not trying something new, things are going to get boring. I think it's why this week's episode of Raw was so beloved, or mostly, apart from one guy that yelled at me about it, but why? Come do it, I don't care. Once again, all noise is good noise, because it was different and there were surprises and it sort of freshened up your brain level when it came to wrestling. And also, let's put it this way, right? AEW could have called it the Intercontinental Championship. You have the international title and you have the continental title, but the world would have died, and I don't need that in my life. I don't need to go on my timeline and just people going, I can't believe they did this. So the unified championship is fine. I mean, WWE had the, what was it, the universal title. That's honestly the worst named championship ever. That one was too much. There you go. That was my limit. That was even worse than the 24/7 belt. It just sounds so stupid. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. It doesn't exist anymore. You go on WWE.com. I think actually lists Roman Reigns as the last one. So we didn't even include Cody Rhodes on there. I think that's the case. They may have updated it. But my point being is I'm super excited about Kenny Omega versus Okada, because in many ways, it hit me at a time when my wrestling passion was renewed, because it would be a year after I started doing wrestling content and Ups and Downs kind of blew up a little bit, and we would have jumped on the New Japan stuff before we learned New Japan doesn't like that, and they'll copyright strike you even for using their images, so make sure I don't use it here. Oh my gosh, thank goodness that just popped into my brain. So if you don't see a New Japan image, that will be why. And I suppose I just have a good memory of everyone being so excited, and everyone signing up for New Japan World, and then Chris Jericho going there, and then ultimately AEW being born, because I always want things like that to happen because it's exciting and it's different. It's why I want people to go from AEW to WWE and then come back from WWE to AEW, turn up in TNA. There's something exciting about that, and you can only do it in pro wrestling. So yes, couple of thumbs up. Also sounds like we are going to be doing Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland versus the Young Bucks at All In after the Young Bucks decided to they wanted to kick Swerve Strickland in the head with a thumbtack shoe, Swerve's own thumbtack shoe, but Will Ospreay decided to jump in the way. I do quite like this for multiple reasons. One, it kind of ties into this idea that AEW is everything to Will Ospreay, and he will sacrifice himself to try and teach that lesson to Swerve. And also, it goes to show that AEW has really thought about their main event, because this could have been Hangman versus Swerve. I think I predicted that. But Hangman winning at Double or Nothing and Will Ospreay fitting in here, well, that works too, because they had this amazing match, 30 minutes long, and there is some, how do I even phrase this? Because once again, you think whatever you want. I do think people go too far with the Young Bucks. I think they get personal, which I don't like. But as far as I'm concerned, the Young Bucks, especially of the modern day, are one of the best tag teams ever. Swerve and Will Ospreay are next level talents. So on paper, it should be absolutely incredible. My only minor gripe was if you are going to do a 30-minute time limit, I just think on other shows, we need to make a bigger deal of time limits. I don't want to get dragged down into this because everybody will be talking about it. And it gets so laborious and boring when you hear these points all over again. But you could just tell the commentators were talking more about the time limits than usual. I don't think we did an announcement at all, but sometimes in the past, AEW just gone, 25 minutes have passed. So I think I would just do it all of the time. I don't think it's weird. I think it's weird if you've only ever watched WWE, but WWE only really has time limits when you get to like an Iron Man match or whatever it is. Whereas look at all other sports. Let's take the Premier League, right? Football, soccer, whatever you're talking about. There's a 90-minute clock in the corner, and you can see it go up, and then when you get to the last few minutes, maybe your adrenaline goes up a little bit, and maybe you're calmer in the first 5 minutes, because you know even if your team concedes, you have 85 minutes to kind of sort it out. So I think wrestling can certainly take advantage of that. New Japan does, and I think anything AEW can do to separate itself from WWE and vice versa is a good thing. Like, it's why I love WWE getting even more produced and crazy and more like a Hollywood movie, because then when I tune into AEW, it feels a bit like an indie flick, or it feels a bit more gritty, a bit more edgy. You know, Adam Copeland, he's not here right now. And that's where the good stuff is. Makes me feel like I'm watching a totally different product, because why would you want to watch the same thing all of the time when there is so many hours of wrestling on TV, especially now when people are trying to counter-program the other person? My gosh, it would be absolutely crazy. Dynamite is still too long at 4 hours. Again, a little bit of a boring thing to talk about, but I found it a struggle. When we got to, I think it was the Commander Beast Mortis match, I was like, I can't believe I have to keep going. And in terms of structuring a show, goes to show there's some smart people, Tony Khan included, who are able to put that together. Maybe it was Tony Khan completely, I don't know. But I couldn't do anything. What do I love to do? Play guitar. I don't want to play for 4 hours. What do I like to do? Play video games. Don't want to do it for 4 hours. I like to make videos. Don't want to do it for 4 hours. So it's not even a wrestling thing. It's a life thing. After a while, your brain just shuts down. And if you do have the opportunity to watch it in chunks, you probably think it's the best thing ever, but then you're not actually watching it how it was presented at the same time. But there was a lot of good stuff on here. Like the Hangman John Moxley angle was awesome. And I think really what John Moxley needed was a super strong babyface that people could believe in, which is why I think Hangman has to win it All In now. I think you'd really be risking it if you did pull a WrestleMania 39 and have the Roman Reigns be the John Moxley, which is certainly ironic to some sort of a degree, but it's just working. Hangman feels crazy. Obviously, Hangman then yells at the Young Bucks and says, you leave Swerve alone, and Swerve and Prince Nana hear this. And sure, maybe Swerve Strickland believes it. It turns out to be a lie. I don't think AEW is going to do that, but it's nice to have the choice. Like, you go on a forum right now and you can make that argument. And then just throughout the show, there was just sort of these, even the Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher storyline. Didn't really like the fact that Anthony Bowens got put in another position to lose, but I think if you actually allow them to do some good promo stuff, given that we do have a month till All In, it could be a match that we really care about, and you could do a big title change. Again, if Hangman Adam Page is going to win, and let's say Toni Storm beats Mercedes Moné, a heel can absolutely win some titles, even if it is your so-called WrestleMania. That is fine. The Mercedes Moné Toni Storm stuff is funny at the moment. Like, it's still good, but Mercedes Moné eating stuff and then sort of getting into a scuffle with people after the fact, including Mina Shirakawa, I think maybe we're holding off for something else. Like next week, I can't remember her damn name now, but Mercedes is taking on the CML Women's Champion. Was it Thurxis or something like that? That's not how you pronounce it. Man, I knew this earlier. I've totally forgotten. But maybe once we come out of that show, we can really heat that up too. Because there certainly was a time after that first interaction, I thought, well, maybe they can main event. At the moment, it has to be Hangman and John Moxley, just because Mercedes and Tony they have momentum, but it's not the same kind of momentum, and maybe that's intentional, I don't know. It's still Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm, two of the biggest women's stars you could possibly have, like, over in American wrestling. So I'm really, really excited about that show. I think it's going to be awesome, especially with what I would believe the addition of the Young Bucks taking on Swerve and Will Ospreay. it could be one of the best tag team matches of the year. It could be one of the best matches of the year altogether. And the Swerve Will Ospreay match, I don't want to skirt over that too quickly, I think is one of the best TV matches of the year. If that's not your style, again, totally get it. But just the speed, the composure, the footwork, the timing, some of the stuff they did, like Will Ospreay missing the hidden blade, just taking that turnbuckle full on, like he's flipping Bret Hart. It was just well worked. And yeah, we absolutely could have conveyed to the public that was there that a time limit had hit. They were like, what? Why did we stop? But we live and learn at the same time. It certainly didn't work on the night, but if we learn from it, like I say, going forward, all is going to be okay. So we will wait and see. But the Hurt Syndicate stuff is interesting to me as well, because if Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, who I really like, by the way, they have adapted to AEW life like nothing. But if they actually are going to challenge the Hurt Syndicate, I don't necessarily think Mike Bailey should have taken the pin. I just have no belief they could beat Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. And there is a positive to that, because they're the Hurt Syndicate. They're two massive men. You want to believe in them. But eventually, when it does become a bit like a production line worth of challenges, you want two people to come in and challenge them and believe in them, which could be FTR. And shout out to those two dudes for just being... You had Stokely Hathaway being hilarious, and then Cash and Dax just get their asses kicked after being proper dickheads, to be completely honest with you. But I like that, and it kind of feels like Adam Copeland's going to be back soon. There was a rumor going around that it was meant to be Adam Copeland and Christian taking on FTR All In. I think it's far more likely to be Danny Garcia and Adam Copeland, although at the same time, Danny Garcia is kind of in the Paragon TNT Championship thing. Christian Cage was not on this show, and we did continue to tease that breakup because Kip Sabian was like, remember, without Daddy, you'd be nothing. So I guess that has to be at All In. So turning Christian Cage face is hard. I actually think you'd be easier to turn Adam Copeland heel. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But it's difficult for me to call this a good show because, again, by the end of it, I was like struggling to stay awake. But the beats where they did hit it, I think they're going to roam into this All-In show, especially because you have Kenny Omega versus Okada, which doesn't even need to be the main event. It's your special attraction. It's like in Glastonbury these days on the Sunday. They have a special attraction. You have no idea who it is, and somebody pops up. No, sorry, that's the legendary. I'm getting it wrong. That's the legendary thing. Like it's been out with John, and somebody else did it who everyone loved. I can't remember. But that's what this is. Like, it's going to be a draw all of its own. And then you get all these other matches around it. So I think it's quite exciting. But please never do a 4-hour show again, as long as I live. Though I think next week's is 2.5 hours. I do not know what happened to 120-minute wrestling not being the absolutely perfect thing. It's like SmackDown. I'm so devastated that SmackDown isn't going back to 2 hours. Because there was a run there when SmackDown never missed. They just packed everything into 120 minutes, and it was the greatest thing ever. But I guess I shouldn't moan, right? We're so lucky to be able to do what we are doing here. And actually, before I do wrap up, I should have done this at the start. I'm an idiot. But shout out to Anna Bachiti, who did announce that he's leaving Cultaholic after 9 years. Is it something like that? 8 years maybe? And then obviously he was an OG at What Culture 2. The game is not the same without Anna Bachiti. I may not be here without Anna Bachiti, who was very nice to me when I joined the What Culture team. He came up with a lot of the concepts that are still going, or at least popularized them, whatever you want to say. The point is, put love and respect on that man's name, and whatever he is going on to do next, I know he's going to smash it, because he just has that sort of a brain. But yeah, when one of the OGs does step aside, you do have to give them a shout out, and we'll just leave it there for today. But do all the YouTube stuff, which again is a good thing to do. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, click the bell, the notification bell, and the subscribe button. I may have said that twice. Click the video on the screen to get my rundown for Monday Night Raw. I have some opinions on that too. Otherwise, it is grillofmine.com/Simon, because I get 10% off, sometimes more. It ships worldwide, best fitness supplements everywhere. Join the watch-alongs, patreon.com/Simon316. It looks like we are going to do Cody versus Seth WrestleMania 38, so make sure you join there. It's $5. It's super duper cheap. Otherwise, it's Simon Miller on Cameo. Get a personalized video. Simon J. Miller on TikTok for absolute nonsense. Pro Wrestling Tees, a big cartel for merchandise. Otherwise, make sure you keep enjoying wrestling. Even if you don't enjoy something, just shrug emoji and move on to something else. It's there to entertain you. Don't let it drag you down. Life is too short, my friends. Again, it's been 7 years since Kenny Omega versus Okada. The next 7 will go fast. Let's enjoy it as much as we can. And I'll see you tomorrow.